So this is a great example of where all that matters is, regardless of what Q, R, S represent, whenever you have a function, particularly one with multiple variables, it can be very useful to look at the answer format. So remember, we don't look at the answer options to try to get the answer right away. SAT questions are going to be too complicated for that. However, looking at the answer format can enable you to see that we're just trying to get R by itself. That's why all the answer options say R equals. So I know I'm going to try to get R by itself. Notice R is in these two locations here. Whenever that occurs, you're going to have to factor it out. So I'm going to factor out R squared. I'm going to rewrite the Q equals. When I pull out R squared, I'm left with 9 plus 16s squared. And then if I want to get R by itself, I don't want to distribute it. That would just get me back to where I started. So to get it by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by the 9 plus 16s squared. And then I'm left with R squared equals this entire left side. And then I have one more step. To undo squaring something, I'm going to square root. The important thing to note is whenever you take the square root of something squared, you get two answers, plus or minus. And that matches with option B. Now, something to be careful about. Notice in option A, they actually took the square root of 9, the square root of 16, and the square root of s squared, and that's why they no longer have the square root down here. The only time you can actually do that is if instead of addition or subtraction being under the root, if instead you had multiplication, you could absolutely do that. So notice this. If I did 9 plus 16, we know that's equal to 25, the square root of which is 5. However, if you take the square root of 9, the square root of 16, you don't get the same thing as 5, right? However, if instead you had multiplication, that ends up being 144, the square root of which is 12. Well, the square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 16 is 4, that works out. So keep that in mind. They're going to try to throw that curveball of, here's a plus or a minus, but these are perfect squares. Take the square root of me. No, you can't do that. So the correct answer is B.